All right, so we got Mr. Gilkin in the building, and we gonna get straight into it. First, today the Cowboys consider him their most improved wide receiver. Why the early struggles and how Tolbert got back on track, including advice from Brandon Cooks and gift from Dak Prescott. So obviously Tolbert is somebody that a lot of the fans are looking to take that jump. So obviously we have your article here with the Dallas Morning News where you laid out some good stuff, a lot of good stuff.
Sure. So there is legitimate excitement within the Cowboys organization about the strides Jalen Tolbert has taken. By the way, thanks again for having me. I always enjoy joining you guys. So
Oh yeah.
whatever I can do to, help advance the conversation as it relates to the Cowboys, I'm happy to meet up with you guys.
Oh yeah.
But last year, he never got a real handle of what the Cowboys are asking from him at all the receivers that they had him play, because it wasn't like he was just an X receiver or a Y receiver or an F or a Y. He was all four, and so there's a lot of fluency that is required if you don't know when a play's coming in the huddle if you're going to be the X or the Z or the F or what have you going in, and then you get the call and you're maybe more confident at X than you are at Z, and it has you at Z, then you're like, oh, okay, what am I doing? What do I got here? And then maybe they motion, there's a pre-snap motion, and there's just, he was thinking too much to play fast. And now he's got it. He got away from the season and went back to Mobile, Alabama. He met up with Dak Prescott, did a lot of throwing, picked the ear of CeeDee Lamb, of Michael Gallup, both of whom told Tolbert that they struggled themselves as a rookie to kind of get acclimated to the playbook. And then there was also the big addition of Brandon Cooks. And Cooks has been terrific for that room. You can see not only why he's been so successful in this league, but why he's been so successful across multiple organizations, the way that he's kind of bounced around a bit. And the way that he's just acclimated so smoothly and been a mentor to Tolbert already, I think it speaks volumes to Brandon Cooks and how, just kind of what he's already meant to the Cowboys. So that's a big part for Jalen Tolbert, just feeling confident again, feeling like he can just go out and play, and some of those natural abilities that we saw at South Alabama, some of the, the physicality, the catch radius, in terms of high pointing the ball in the air. He can just kind of get back to being that guy. Now, I know that he only caught 2 passes last year. So even if he makes a jump, what does that jump to? But the Cowboys feel there's a lot of upside to it. And they think, we're going to be past the days of Jalen Tolbert being a healthy scratch. At least that's the goal that Tolbert has. Like, he wants to be a legitimate part of this, keeping in mind that the Cowboys no longer have Noah Brown. And so we'll see how it all goes. Special teams, of course, is a part of the depth chart, what it looks like for a 48-man game day roster. But Cowboys are really pleased thus far with what Tolbert has shown.
Big.
All right. I hate to just pivot. I'm sorry. But I want to talk about Simi Fehoko. You mentioned Tolbert, and I actually wanted him in the draft. I had him in my mock draft, so I'm excited that he's doing this. But I want to ask about Simi Fehoko. I mean, a lot of people are talking him up again this year. They talked him up last year. Is there really anything going to come about this Simi Fehoko? Because in my opinion, just from me, I don't know if he's going to be anything more than a camp body when you look at the roster as a whole. Can you talk me off of that, or is this real improvement, or, kind of give me your thoughts and kind of the outlook on Simi Fehoko?
Yeah, I thought Simi was one of the more improved Cowboys in camp last year, where you looked at, as a rookie, he really, was not ready to contribute. And then you could just tell that, he could stretch the field, his size, he just had that big play component to him. And he injures his shoulder, and he's getting shot regularly into it. He and I talked about it last week. It just kind of derailed things for him, his range of motion and the sort. And Cowboys ultimately put him on IR. We really didn't see him. We didn't see him back after that. There was thought that maybe he could be back, in time for a late playoff game, but that didn't materialize, obviously, with the San Francisco game result. I think we want to see more in training camp. I would probably want to see more to kind of figure out just where he is today relative to last year. With Tolbert, it's so clear the jump just because of the starting point. I think Fehoko kind of came a long way from year 1 to year 2. So, but he's clearly put the work in. He's got, just again, that vertical component to him. He's hungry. You can kind of just tell in his voice that he's ready to be a part of things after 2 years of really not having been so. But he's got something to prove, and not unlike Jalen Tolbert. I mean, I think you can kind of. I think it's a good pivot that you make because they kind of fall in a similar category. There are two guys whose lockers are literally side by side each other, and they very much are shoulder to shoulder as it pertains to what 2023 means for their careers.
Gotcha.
That's
Appreciate
a good
you.
observation there. Speaking of Semi, last year Mike McCarthy came out and said that he wanted him to be more of the hybrid guy, and that dissipated. We didn't get a chance to see that. From your view of Semi, do you see him more of a finesse wide receiver or a physical wide receiver, or will he be lined up more inside or outside?
I would think outside. I don't see him too much in the slot. It's really, this spring for the Cowboys was a bit irregular in that there wasn't really any 11-on-11 of consequence. DBs weren't contesting for the ball when it was in the air. Everything was designed to really not cross the line of the collective bargaining agreement and what it allows the Cowboys to do and not to do. And so Mike McCarthy won't have a fine for the third straight spring. That was by design. But I think, unfortunately, when it comes to a guy like Fehoko, and I do think he's got a lot of physicality when the ball is in the air. I think he definitely has that element to him. But we weren't able to see that just because of the nature of the tempo and physicality of practice, the lack thereof. But I think that's the way I think of him, though. I think of him bodying up people and just, kind of being that, 5 in basket, 4 or 5 in basketball, just jumping up, grabbing a rebound. Like when the ball's in the air, you kind of think that it's tilted toward his advantage. So we'll see if he can have another, second straight camp, if he can stay healthy. There's definitely, the Cowboys were not prepared for Michael Gallup to show so poorly coming off of the ACL. I think Fehoko, his development, his injury, Jalen Tolbert with his injury, they just weren't really loaded up enough. But you got to think with the development of some of these young wide receivers, with Brandon Cook's addition, with Gallup's return to health, return to confidence in that left knee, the Cowboys are better set up to have more help for Dak Prescott in that receiver corps, in conjunction with some of the scheme differences and increased understanding of the why to the play, because the details will be the difference in a passing game, and those often were waning and leading to some of the interceptions that Prescott had.